Thank you for joining us for the holiday week before the holidays. We have a great guest for you guys today. Menaka Gopinath is the Chief Marketing Officer at PMI, which is the Project Management Institute. She leads global brand communications and marketing strategy with a focus on customer-centric growth and storytelling. She's had a distinguished career guiding Fortune 100 brands, including Coca-Cola, Apple, Nike, Uber, P&G, and Meta. Quite a roster there. Leveraging advanced analytics, integrated cross-channel programs to drive impact. Prior to PMI, Menaka served as president and CEO of sustainable fashion brand Graf Lantz and led the social media exchange practice at Ipsos, scaling it significantly. She's passionate about purpose-driven business and diversity in the industry and serves on the board of mentors for Monday Night Mentorship. And she also holds a BA in economics and communications from NYU and an MBA in finance from the University of San Francisco. Menaka, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Dylan. It's nice to be here.
So I know I gave a little bit of a quick bio there, but maybe we slow it down a little bit and maybe even go to the beginning. So where'd you grow up? We talked a little bit about where you went to school for undergrad. What got you excited about the world of brand marketing and advertising, and how'd you get into the industry?
Sure. Well, I grew up in Seattle, Washington, actually.
Nice.
And when I was younger, one of my uncles gave me the book Ogilvy on Advertising.
Nice. That's a classic.
It sparked my interest in a potential career on Madison Avenue.
Let's go.
That was what everyone would talk about. Actually in high school, I started getting more into journalism, which is then what led me to NYU, where I actually studied journalism and mass communications. And that kind of pushed me into PR, public relations. And when I graduated from college, it was right during the initial internet boom, not to date myself.
The dot-coms.
The early aughts, late 90s. And so I ended up working at an online community company that was really setting up what I would call kind of the early days of social media. Remember back in the day when we were doing message boards on every media site?
Yeah, we had Friendster before MySpace, something like that.
So kind of propelled me into an area I never really thought I would end up in. I thought I'd be at a traditional agency or something, but given kind of the state of the world and how much was going into the internet and technology at the time, really pushed me into understanding new ways of engaging and building connections with different audiences, which kind of became the through line of my career from there. Bouncing from different agency to different agency, but everything from entertainment marketing and working on things like King Kong and the banana flavored Twinkies around the movies. That was fun. That was a fun one. To doing more of these kind of large scale online communities, working with P&G, Nike, et cetera. And then finally kind of taking that into insights. It was interesting as you work in the frame of community, like online community and engaging with consumers in different ways, you start to learn a lot. And so that's really what kind of led me into Ipsos, which is a market research and consumer insights firm. And there really worked to kind of build how are you learning about people from the lens of connecting with them in an online forum, but also listening. So intelligence was a big part of that as well. These days, it's a little harder because you don't know what's a bot and not. But
there's a lot of false signals out there now. Huh?
Yeah. But through my work at Ipsos is where I really got kind of really into the lens of brand purpose and what it means to truly deliver value from that brand lens, and how can brands kind of drive meaningful change. And so that led me to kind of a pretty big pivot going into a small business in Los Angeles, Graf Lantz, and leading operations there, which really helped me delve into the world of e-commerce and brand building from a very different lens on the brand side. So fast forward to today, I'm now at Project Management Institute. It's a nonprofit or a not-for-profit focused on the project management profession. It's the largest in the world supporting
Wow.
the profession. And it's a pretty interesting organization formed over 55 years ago by volunteers who were in the profession and were really looking to connect with each other. And then that kind of formed this community of professionals who together really built the discipline around the profession, which then led to the certifications that we have, like the PMP, as well as learning, and all of these chapters around the world. So we have over 300 chapters around the world. But it's been interesting if I look at kind of a through line, community has really been a consistent theme. And I think that's what keeps me going in the context of how do you create that sense of community? How do you create more meaningful connections? And how do you use that to kind of deliver greater value? So
I love that. I love that. So, talking about your work at PMI specifically, it's a nonprofit, but it's also a membership-driven organization. I imagine you guys also have, partnerships with groups that want to get in front of your members and in front of your chapters. Do you guys also do advocacy? Do you guys like lobby on behalf of the profession to Washington, D.C., or kind of like the broader, group of stakeholders outside of your own memberships? Is that part of your mandate as well?
More broadly at PMI, yes, that is
Okay.
an element of it. I think through governments, academic institutions, enterprise organizations, I think ultimately our focus is on how do we help this profession grow and how do we help it have greater impact in terms of the outcomes that it can drive. And with project management, it's one of those disciplines that I think most people won't argue the value of it. Like, I think most people
You don't
realize.
have to justify your existence.
I think it's more in the lens of the focused discipline on it and really linking it to why it needs to be delivered to drive outcomes. So a lot of what we're talking about is how do we make the linkage of C-suite level that's trying to like drive transformation outcomes and like where there's the strategy execution gap of like the best intentions, but how do you actually get a team of people in an organization to push that forward? So a lot of our energy is really in that lens. And when you think about government, for example, infrastructure projects and all of this money that's invested in capital projects that a lot of times gets wasted at times because it's just the implementation strategy is not there. So
Yeah. When you think of project management as a discipline, are you talking to both, like you just mentioned, like infrastructure, like people who are building bridges, roads, massive construction, like huge multi-billion dollar projects that are, huge scale. And then you also think of like project managers, like on a small team of innovators building software at high velocity. Does your organization kind of encompass everything under the project management discipline?
yeah, I mean, it's we have everything from, like you said, infrastructure, giga projects to IT, to even more recently, a lot more people in like marketing joining into our community. It's really across the board. I don't think you can kind of flag where project management doesn't exist. If you think about kind of the early days of Project Management Institute, it was, in the 60s. It was founded in 1969. It was around a time when some of the most ambitious projects were being embarked on. It was when JFK said he wanted to put a man on the moon. And I think in its early days, it was very much about the complexity was growing. How do we tackle these seemingly impossible projects and put more framing against that to drive success? And I think you could argue today, like everything at some level is more complex, particularly with the advent of AI and how rapidly things are changing. And so we're really focused on not only forgetting, not only like thinking about where our roots came from and where like the main value of what PMI stands for originated, but also where it's expanding to, right? We're seeing it in, for example, fashion, where they're tackling things like supply chain and material innovation, all of the things that drive transformation in that industry. We're seeing it in music and live event production. We're seeing it in gaming. So there's just all of these different places that it shows up. And I think it's becoming more important to have stronger discipline against it. You know, you could say back in the day, like I'm an accidental project manager as a marketer.
Yeah,
Right?
we all are. We all are to some degree, right?
You kind of had to figure it out. And when I started at PMI, I actually I got certified, so I wanted to know the product
You wanted to drink your own Kool-Aid?
exactly. And I was
Smart.
like, wow, this would have been really useful and like early in my career, because a lot of these things that you're learning on the job are things that there's frameworks and toolkits and kind of systems that you can kind of cue into. So
I love that. You talked a little bit about the founding being around this moment in history where we were embarking on large projects. I don't know if you've been watching the news today, but the current administration just announced some new, what I would call moonshot goals, literally moonshots, to reestablish lunar landing within 3 years, within 10 years to have a lunar base on the moon, and then within a larger time frame to actually achieve human flight to Mars. Do you think of this moment as AI is unlocking probably the largest amount of resources in human capital in history? And then also, the United States to some degree trying to reassert itself as like a global um, strength, I guess, or I don't know what exactly how you would want to quantify it, but those are bold projects that we haven't heard of that type of thinking in a long time. Is that something that you're able as a marketer to kind of tie in and like, how do we as a society and as a workforce come together and tackle some of these audacious goals? Like how would you use something like that and the storytelling and the devices that you want to explore over the next few years?
yeah, that's I mean, I can't necessarily speak to the US government and the plans that are coming from that, but I would say more broadly, when I came into the organization, one of the things we work to do is articulate a very clear brand purpose. And we landed on we maximize project success to elevate our world. And this really comes back to what I was saying before, like there's the strategy execution gap. People have bold ideas. People have like really revolutionary things that they want to put into place. And a lot of times they fall down in the implementation and then making it real, scalable, and have that true value. And we see the opportunity is if those things can have a greater propensity for success and be focused on things that are going to really help create a better world, that is truly where our superpower can drive meaningful change. I think one of the ways that we've tried to bring this to life through storytelling is most recently we did a partnership with Time magazine. Um,
Mm-hmm.
with Time Studios, we did a 3-part docuseries where we highlighted, it's called The Solutionaries, and it highlights 3 different people who are driving forward very revolutionary, game-changing ideas to tackle climate change, and really documenting how they are doing that. More importantly, because it's not in the ideation phase, it's in the true implementation and scale phase, right? So one of them is a company called Glacier Technologies, and Rebecca, the founder there, they've created an AI-powered robot, essentially, that comes in and helps with recycling. Because I don't know if you know
Wow.
this, only 7% of what we put in the recycling bin actually gets recycled.
Oh my gosh, that's so sad.
It's very sad. But she's created a solution that I think what they're doing that's been really interesting is they're actually integrating it into the existing waste management systems around the US, right? So it's not about trying to totally change a system, but it's looking at how can we insert these solutions that can have kind of a radical impact on the outcomes and help hopefully create a more circular economy with like waste, which is, I think all of us know, is a little scary when you think about all the
Oh
landfills. And,
gosh.
yeah. So it's just an example, I think, where we're trying to kind of bring to light that all of us have the capacity to drive like really big, bold change. And the unlock is really taking those bold ideas and really looking at how do you take a disciplined approach to making them real.
I love that. How did you come on time as a media partner? It feels very like B2B2C kind of,
Mm-hmm.
with like that idea that, Time has this kind of pedigree and, you think of like maybe Wall Street Journal in that same class, maybe Business Insider. So what are some of the criterias that you go into deciding how to pick a media partner, knowing that you have this like very targeted constituency of project managers, but you're also trying to build a larger brand halo?
Yeah, I mean, we look at our brand platform from the lens of kind of three key story arcs, right? I talked about our brand purpose. The first is relevance of the profession. So, like I said before, like we want people to see the value in project management, and that's not just from an individual potentially entering it as a career path, but that's also the people that are hiring the roles, that are upskilling and driving L&D and learning and development for those roles. So it's not just the project professional that matters in that context. The second is kind of how are we showcasing the value of the profession, right? Like what I was saying before, people talk about high like failure rates of projects or wasted resources and money. Where can we show kind of the unlocks to driving greater project success and why that matters, right? In the larger scheme of things, in terms of trying to transform, trying to drive meaningful change. And then kind of the last piece is really how are we going to use that to showcase societal evolution in a positive light, like that elevating of our world. I think for time for us, what was so intriguing was one, we worked with their Time Studios team, who are an amazing group of people making really beautiful content. And for us, we didn't want this to just feel like kind of a branded ad piece. We really wanted it to be a true storytelling piece for us. And if you watch them, they're beautiful, right? We worked with a director named Ed Buckles, and he is a beautiful documentarian, brought to life these stories in a way that we really, it wasn't about advertising PMI. It was really about showcasing the power of our profession in this lens of solutionary and revolutionary change. So that was really important to us, like high quality content. I think the second piece was audience. Like they have a built-in audience. I think a lot of us as marketers, we want to create all this cool content, and then we're like, okay, now we have to make
How do you get eyeballs, right?
yeah, like the microphone, right? And with time, that's really built in. And we were very focused on making sure they had a global footprint, right? And time does actually have quite a large audience around the world. So that was really important to us. And then I think just from the lens of cultural relevance, like they are a very culturally relevant brand. And Jess Sibley over there, who's the CEO, has done a really amazing job of transforming that brand, but staying true to what that brand really means. And I think because they're kind of at that forefront of driving what culture is and defining it in a lot of ways, that alignment felt very meaningful for us as well.
I love that. We talked a little bit about this idea of like project management kind of spans a lot of different disciplines and a lot of different industries. And you almost have project management in every company to some degree of scale, whether you like it or not, or whether you call it that or not. So as you're trying to drive value for your membership, and you've got, a project manager that works in construction, and then you've got another one that works in SaaS or AI. How do you create programming and content and things that are like universally appealing or valuable for this kind of like broader topic of project management, but these people that apply it in so many different ways?
Yeah, it's definitely a multidimensional taxonomy that we and it can get a little overwhelming at times, but I mean, it obviously starts with the audience, and we kind of look at the audiences from different lenses. One is career path, right? If you think about someone who's early in their career versus someone who's more mature in their career, the needs are going to be differentiated. So that's one really critical lens we look at in terms of how we build content, messaging, et cetera. The second is discipline. So we do have like our core certification, our kind of most known certification is the PMP. But beyond that, we have a portfolio of additional specialized certifications where you can go deeper into certain areas. So that's not necessarily a vertical drive. It's more about methodology and discipline. And some of it's advanced, some of it's more like early stage career, but it's all kind of giving you different ways to think about where you're trying to step up in your career. And then the third is actually going into more specialized platforms. So we call them our content and innovation platforms. That's where you can go deeper into like giga projects, which is kind of the construction infrastructure lens. You can go deeper into sustainability or agile, or so like that's kind of another dimension. So these are all kind of dimensions that we use in a taxonomy to try to plan out different ways that we're activating on our different channels. I don't know that I've like unlocked the magic of how you like do that in the best way possible, but I think from our lens, we're always trying to think about it from a system thinking lens, so that we are putting intention against what we're saying, why we're saying it, and how we're saying it.
With the chapters, are they organized regionally or by profession, or how does the chapter taxonomy work?
Regionally.
Regionally.
Yeah. And our chapters are such an amazing part of what this brand is made up of. Coming into the organization, like I said before, it was like this really beautiful through line of community. And I think if you had to like really name in one word the superpower of the Project Management Institute, it is the community. This organization truly is co-created, like literally, like every product we create, every learning resource we develop, most of them, if not all of them, have some input or co-creation element from our community of volunteers. So the chapters are a part of that, and they're a really important part of on the ground connection. So a lot of what they're doing also spans those different dimensions that I mentioned, right? Like, where am I at in my career? So a lot of our chapters have mentorship programs. It could be about communities of practice or specialized areas. So a lot of them have corporate outreach programs or things that they can do, like if you're in construction or in IT. And they're also doing a lot around social impact and volunteerism, really helping the community, but bringing in the skills of project management to drive impact there as well.
How do you build online community outside of the chapters? Is there like Slack groups, or like what is the way to build community virtually when they can't be together in person?
Most formally, we have projectmanagement.com. So that's
okay. So it's like that's like an online community.
correct. Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah, and it's actually quite active.
Nice.
We also have, I know a lot of our chapters have WhatsApp groups and things like that, but there's also a very active Reddit community.
Yeah.
And again, sometimes from a brand lens, I'm like, I don't want to like ruin the party, like the parents like coming into the party or whatever.
Yeah.
I think we would really try to like let those things flourish from an organic lens. We've done some Ask Me Anythings and things like that on Reddit. LinkedIn is also a very engaged area where people are communicating and connecting as well. So All the
That's cool.
dimensions for sure. Yeah.
Is there such thing as a project management influencer on LinkedIn? That
Wow.
seems like this is the year where like I remember doing some like searches recently for a client for influencers in the big agriculture space, and there were people with many hundreds of thousands of followers on LinkedIn.
Mhm.
Have you found the emerging of like project management influencers from a B2B influencer perspective?
Absolutely. I think
That's
it comes from different lenses. There's people who are talking about it more from a career development lens. So there's a lot of really strong career influencers out there. There's also people that have created almost their whole influence around our certifications and PMP.
wow.
There's people who have whole businesses focused on the exam prep and supporting people who are trying to get a PMP. And then we also see influence in the context of just how do I find new ways to unlock salary, growth, like things like this, like the career hacks kind of element. So yeah, we definitely engage with a lot of them. They're on YouTube, they're on TikTok, Instagram. So yeah, that's another area where what it's interesting. Like some of them are homegrown through just like the PMI community, and then others are more just they've created these on their own followings externally, but they're people that we want to engage with and drive more connection.
I love that. And it almost feels like you could create influencers almost from anybody, because you could have an influencer go through your certification and document their
Mhm.
story. And like even like a mainstream, normal influencer, like a YouTuber, like, all these influencers need project management skills. So you could almost work with anybody if they're willing to like organically go through your certification. And,
That's
it's kind of
absolutely right.
interesting. Yeah,
Actually,
that's
like I
wild.
remember when I first started at PMI, it was right when the Eras tour was going on with Taylor Swift, and
Wow.
I asked the team, I was like, "Do we know anyone in our community that like the Eras tour and has a PMP?" But through that, we actually found a guy named Jim Digby, who is a PMP certified project professional, and he is the tour director for Lincoln Park. Um,
Oh, very cool.
actually doing a whole piece around him. And you could argue that maybe some of the things we're doing is helping him become an influencer. I don't know.
Sure.
So it works both ways. But yeah, I think it's been fun to see like I just interviewed Jose Andres recently at our global summit event, and we were like, who in his team is a PMP, and his CFO has PMP.
Oh my gosh, so good.
So it's pretty fun. Like when you're looking at like all the different angles you want to tell stories from. Generally, if you dig hard enough, you can find some interesting nuggets.
Yeah. And it's great because everybody wants to like self-identify, and they just put it in their LinkedIn bio or their resume. So it's probably not super hard to track people down either,
It's
right?
a badge of honor, the
Yeah.
PMP. It's actually really fun to see the social content and when people post about getting certified and like the pride they have in it. We saw like there's a lot of people who post like their custom cakes they make. You know how they like cake with the like where you can burn the top of it and it reveals.
Yeah, with like a
Someone did that for their PMP where they had their certification be revealed under it. Like
oh, that's amazing.
it's pretty fun. Yeah, we have a lot of fun on social because there's just so much happening organically around our brand. So
I
yeah,
love that. What part of the C-level does project management report into, or is it multiple?
it depends. I mean, like I have a project management function within marketing. Like a lot
Mhm.
of times it's called like delivery ops or campaign ops. There's generally a PMO type function within like a seat that reports up to a CTO or a COO. So it's kind of across the board. I think it's much more um, like widespread when you think about it in the technology and operations realms of organizations. But I'm definitely seeing a lot more agencies, marketing departments setting up like a marketing ops function, which when you think about it at its core, a lot of that is really fundamentally about project management and delivery.
Love that. You talked a little bit about your own summit. I imagine events, whether they're like your national conference, whatever that's called, or like local events, are probably somewhat important to your strategy. How much is event marketing important for the programming that you guys put on, but also the things that you and your larger audience show up to in the world?
Hugely important. We our largest event that we do is called Global Summit, and the most recent one just happened in Phoenix last month. But we do that around the world. So we do the Global Summit, which is the marquee event, and then Global Summit Series. So those are really our owned events that we do around the world. Those are really critical because they're a place for people. Again, connection is so embedded in what we deliver as an organization and how our community comes together and learns from each other and grows from each other. And that's really kind of that most tangible in-person kind of realization of that. But apart from that, our chapters do events. So that's a big part of how our communities engage. I'm part of our Los Angeles chapter, and they do
Nice.
tons of really awesome events. I think there's also, we have a group of volunteers, almost 20,000 volunteers around the world. And for them, we have different events that we do to bring them together. And then outside of that, when we think about third party, that's from a regional lens, we're kind of all over the place in terms of where do we need to show up based on where we're trying to penetrate. And I think one of the larger scale things we do is Cannes Lions.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I was official press for Lions last year, and I did 44 interviews. It was wild. It was a
I
good
heard you
time.
were very busy. I think we were going to try to connect there. And
I think so. I think that might have been where we first connected, and now way back, this amount of time has gone by. But yeah, it was my dance card almost exploded the minute that I got officially accepted as press. So
love that. Yeah, I think for us, we started 2 years ago, and we're really working with the Lions Learning team, and very much about if we can equip early stage marketers with the discipline of project management principles, how that can kind of unlock their growth in a lot of different ways. Because if you think about every campaign is a project.
yeah.
And like we said before, a lot of marketers learn on the job, and there's kind of a acceleration path that you can drive if you kind of get ahead of that from a learning lens. So that's a real big focus for us in terms of that next generation coming into the profession and leveraging the discipline. And then the other element for us is the C-suite that's at Cannes, encouraging them to understand how setting up marketing ops function or standing up a PMO can really drive impact in terms of delivery. I think we hear a lot about agencies kind of working on sprints and like all these things that they're trying to transform. And that's an area where I think we bring a lot of value. So it's been great working with that team, trying to expand our influence there. So yeah.
How much is students a focus for you? Are you trying to get people to be thinking about project management careers while they're in university or maybe even high school?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a global accreditation network where multiple universities around the world have our accreditation so that they can actually deliver a project management degree at university. So that's a big focus for us. And from a high school lens, we actually work with Certiport, and we have something called PM Ready, which is really about getting the high schoolers certified in kind of those early stage skills. We also have a 501(c)(3) called PMI Educational Foundation, and that is really focused on the high school into college early career, funding a lot of the skills around project management, because we kind of look at it as skills for life. We have an organization we work with that uses project management training as a means to tackle burnout.
That's interesting.
We can spiral out pretty quick if we get overwhelmed, and if you start to have some tools to really organize the things and put that kind of framing around things, it starts to make things feel a little bit less overwhelming.
Wow. Project management as mental health. I love that.
I mean, that's kind of an angle anyway, Dylan.
Well, hey, I don't think there's much worse of a feeling than when you're like spinning because you got so many plates. I mean, literally, they call it spinning because of that, right?
Yeah,
That's where the
exactly.
phrase comes from. All right. I want to talk a little bit, take a step larger, and a little bit of your maybe commentary on the industry as large. We've gone through a couple of weeks of tumult, for lack of a better word, in the larger ecosystem. You've led both teams within agencies and in-house teams. What do you think is going to be the right mix moving forward? Is it an in-house strategy? Is it working with the holdcos? Is it working with indies? Is it a little bit of both? What's your philosophy, and what do you kind of see with the current landscape and how things are shaking out?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't know that I have the answer. I think
Yeah,
we're,
it's a big question, right?
we're definitely doing a combination of all three. I think we work with like agencies within the large holdco, and then we also have more independent boutique agencies that we engage. I think I've been really looking at it more from a project lens, to be completely honest. So less of an agency of record and more of like where do we really need to go deeper? And
How on brand for you to think about projects versus
oh,
retainers.
yeah. Um, so yeah, I think that's been an evolution. I also have been working very hard to build more in-house capabilities, right? So we didn't have a really established creative studio in-house, and that's been a big area of focus for us, getting much more on top of like story producing and how can we kind of build almost like a casting agency of sort, because like I said, so much of what we are doing from a storytelling lens is telling stories around our community. And when you think about that, it's just like mining all the different things. So a lot of that we're building the muscle internally. I think a lot of agencies bring so much value too, though, because like particularly on the media side, when you think about the scope and the learning and the understanding that they can bring, and the level of engagement they have with the channels and the platforms. But it's been interesting, and I just keep learning and trying to like evolve and optimize as we go. I'll
I
let
love
you
it.
figure out.
So, a big theme that I've been trying to tap into with interviews recently is practical AI usage. I think we're, past the hype cycle, and now we're getting into like getting under the hood and seeing where AI actually shows up in the process. Could you give maybe the most exciting implementation of AI that you've been able to execute within the org that is actually moving real business results and that you're very excited and proud about?
Yeah, sure. There's actually one of the campaigns we did over the summer that we introduced for our CAPM certification, which is a earlier career certification. We worked with our agency at the time, AKQA, and developed the concept around work anywhere. And so as we were building out what that meant, and we were really trying to showcase that this certification unlocks transversal skills and things that can really open up your career opportunities. And we wanted to show that visually. And the idea behind it was like, how can we show people like in gaming within a video game or in like NASCAR, but like on the side of the racing track? If I was going to do that campaign, like literally shoot it and produce it around the like world, it would have cost me a lot of money that I probably didn't have the budget for. And we actually used AI around that. Now it was like, it wasn't easy, like the prompting and all of the design and intention that went into that, and then the like framing of it coming out of it. There was a lot of work, and it was definitely very reliant on a strong creative team. But I do think it unlocked an opportunity for us that we probably wouldn't have had otherwise, because we don't have like giant marketing budgets. So that was really fun to see kind of that progress. And actually, we're refreshing the assets right now and kind of learning from what we did around that. I think it really drove scale for us in a way that we didn't have before.
I love that.
Yeah. I will say on
Um,
the other side, though, we've been trying to use it more for creative optimization. And it's like ChatGPT, right? You're like, man, ChatGPT, like, you got to try harder. Like, at times the laziness of the tools, like you're like, oh man, I gotta really push them. And I'm really worried about this genericism of like the slop that you're
mhm.
hearing about, and how much the critical thinking and oversight, at least today, the human intervention is pretty important. So still learning about how it can be used from a creative development and optimization lens, but
Yeah, I love the idea of what you said about hero shots because, I don't think actors are going to get replaced anytime. Like, you need the way that people look at each other in the eyes, and you need the real facial expressions of actual humans.
yeah.
But, why can't you green screen it and then say, hey, I'm at the F1 race and now I'm in a video game? And, it's like, it's really
Mhm.
just background if you think about it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I understand that's sad for maybe like a location scout or like all the crew that maybe needed to be, involved to like create those scenarios in the past. But I mean, look, efficiencies, I think it just allows, like you said, like allows you to do more with less budget. And the people that have the money are still going to spend it, right? So it's not like it really only helps people with smaller budgets do things that look like they're bigger budgets, really, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
love that.
I will say we're also doing a lot with like Copilot and also ChatGPT, like agents and things like that, like building in our brand guidelines into the agent, using a workspace that's like within our constraints. And PMI actually has a tool called PMI Infinity, and it's essentially built on top of the LLMs, and it actually is really great if you're like, imagine you're about to do a campaign and you have all this stuff in your mind and you just need like the brief and then like a project plan. Infinity can help you,
Let's
and
go.
it's using all of our templates and things like that. So that's another area where I think we're trying to like create some streamlining in some of these more administrative but really critical elements of the process. And I was talking to someone recently, like, I feel like the importance of the brief is like heightened now.
Yeah, because the brief is like the input for prompts almost in a way.
Exactly, exactly. So yeah, it's interesting times for sure.
I love it. You've talked a little bit about how mentorship is a component of PMI. How has mentorship played a role in your career? And is there any mentors that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Oh, so many. I mean, I think for me, uh, I don't know that I realized the importance of mentorship until later in my career. And I think you mentioned Monday Night Mentorship earlier. I That was something that a friend of mine, Jabari Hearn, I met him when he was my client when he worked at Nike. And him and Julian Duncan, who was also formerly at Nike, they started Monday Night Mentorship. It was during the pandemic. It was actually April 2020. I think he had just had to do like a massive layoff. He was at Lyft at
Mm,
the time. And it was just like, oh my gosh, we just need to connect with each other. And he kind of collected this group of mentors, a really amazing group of folks. And what I actually took away from that experience, kind of coming into these mentor sessions, is how much I was learning, not just from the mentors, but from everyone. And like
hmm
this kind of idea of 360 learning. So I think that's something that I really cherish. And I would call Jabari out as someone that I love. And I think he's put so much energy into the value behind mentorship. Um, and I don't know. I think it's like always being open to knowing that you can learn from all different types of people, places, things. It's not just always looking up. So
I love that. I think the best mentorships is when I think both parties probably feel like they're getting equal amounts of value out of the relationship, right? Just because somebody is higher up in their career or has more money or more success than you, that doesn't mean learning can't flow in both directions, especially when you're talking about younger generations. Like, I learn a lot from my 12-year-old daughter because of how plugged in she is as a generation alpha. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
they're like a great case study, case study of two, or my 10-year-old. So
Yeah, exactly. My 14-year-old is a constant source for me, for sure.
beautiful. Well, if people want to learn more about PMI or connect with you directly, where would you like to send the audience?
Oh, you can check out more about PMI at pmi.org. And I would love to connect with anyone. I'm on LinkedIn, so that's the best
Love it.
place to find me. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And if those of you who are following along at home, if this is the first time you're seeing the show, don't forget to give us a follow or a subscribe. If you're listening to the podcast, an honest review on whatever podcast platform you happen to be listening on is how we find a larger audience organically. And if there's someone out there in the world who you think needs to scale up, maybe consider project management as a place to just get some additional adult learning and to sharpen up your skill set and see what types of options are out there for you. Or if there is somebody in the project management field or in some of these adjacent fields that we've talked about today, marketing, tech, IT, construction, etc. Or last but not least, if there's just a marketer out there who you think would enjoy the conversation that we had today, do not forget to share the show. And with that, I will thank you so much for your time. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. It's been great.
Cheers. Bye-bye. See you soon.